everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Power of the Mind, brought to you by Granite Mountain Behavioral Healthcare. Madi, how's it going?
It's going good. How are you?
Good. You look excited. What are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about core beliefs and how they can evolve sometimes into love addiction or love avoidance.
So I've heard of there's all types of addiction. Have not heard too much about love avoidance. I'm excited to get into this. Where you want to start?
So I just want to start with love is a powerful source and it shapes our lives. But love can be a source of pain, confusion, and unhealthy patterns. Today we will explore two sides of the same coin, love addiction and love avoidance. Many people struggle with these patterns, often without realizing it. At the heart of these patterns lie a core belief, the deep-seated idea we hold about ourselves, others, and the world. So what are core beliefs? These foundational ideas we develop, often in childhood, that shaped how we see ourselves and interact with others. They can be a positive light, like I'm worthy of love, or a negative one, where I'm unlovable. These beliefs form the lens which we view relationships and play a significant role in how we engage in romantic connections. Let's start with love addiction.
All righty. I'm excited. Let's go.
An obsessive need for love, attention, and validation from other persons or other people characterizes love addiction. Those who struggle with love addiction often seek out relationships to fill a void within themselves. They might become overly dependent on their partner. They experience intense fear of abandonment, or constantly seek out new relationships to avoid being alone. So some characteristics of love addiction, for instance, would be, oh wow, that guy waved at me. He loves me. He's the one.
So quickly going from, it's going to be, I met him and planning wedding.
Absolutely going from 0 to 100 very quickly. She waved. Oh, that's it. That's my forever.
So you see it in both male and female?
Often.
Okay. And so we talk about the core beliefs and it's attributed kind of that way. Is this something like with love addiction, people that maybe didn't get a lot of love or so that's where, am I jumping ahead?
No, that's perfect.
Okay.
So where does love addiction come from, right? That's what you're asking, right? Often love addiction is rooted in core beliefs of inadequacy or unworthiness. If someone believes deep down that they're not lovable or need to earn love through constant attention or approval, they might chase love. They might chase after it in an unhealthy way. They might feel like they need to be in a relationship to prove their worth. And this can lead to a cycle of dependency and emotional turmoil.
So do you see it in, if you notice, I've known people who they cannot be alone.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely, we've touched on a little bit like with my mom, it was, boom, boom, boom. It was just never lived by yourself, always had somebody else in there. So is that a form of love addiction?
Absolutely. The constant need to be validated by someone constantly. It's a need to be needed, but excessively.
You also brought up the fear of abandonment.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's somebody that maybe a parent left or mom didn't pay attention to you, you cling on to that person and you're so afraid that they're going to leave you. Do you often see that with jealousy? And is that when things will start, you always assume the worst with your partner, that sort of thing?
Yes, absolutely. So there's an amazing theorist named Pia Mellody, and she wrote this book, Love Addiction No More. It is remarkable, and it explains it to the T. And what she says in there is she defines trauma as anything that's less than nurturing. So often people who have had trauma, or often people who have had a parent that was emotionally unavailable, or had a parent of a divorce, what happens is they seek that attention through other people to get their needs met. You will save me. Together the world will do it great. I need you. To the point of it being unhealthy. Now, when does it become unhealthy? When you know that that relationship is no longer healthy and you stay a part of it because you need it to survive. It's overlooking the chaos And a lot of times in love avoidance and love addiction cycle, there will be a participating event that often leads to chaos. And what happens with the love addict is they're so fearful of abandonment that they'll stay in it regardless what happens.
So I think about people that are in an abusive relationship. And a lot of times the cycle repeats itself, or you've been a part of that. And so it's a normal thing for you, but you've been so either abused in your childhood. And so now you've attached yourself to somebody, and no matter what, that's where you stay.
Absolutely. And I think one thing that's really important is people who are in this chaos of love addiction where they need to be needed so much, there's something missing inside. It's like, what do I really need? Mm-hmm. What companionship do I need to gain within myself to feel secure? But instead, they seek that security through someone else.
Right.
They need to be needed. I think, a lot of times lessons will repeat themselves until you learn the lesson you need to learn. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times in relationships, dysfunctional relationships, you can just change the name of the person and you will see the cycle repeat itself over and over until you've worked through that pain.
Greg used to say that you will not change until it is more painful to stay than the actual, because it's hard to change, right? It's hard to get out of this, but when it's become so bad, and so many of us sit on the outside of that and you're like, oh my gosh, they're back together again. How many times are we going to watch this relationship end in their back? And we all sit on our mighty thrones, right? And look at other people. And it's just, I never think about it like they have to be there. Mm-hmm. Mentally, physically, they are addicted to this relationship.
Absolutely. One quote I really like, it's like, when the pain of the problem becomes worse than the pain of the solution, you will change.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's perfect. Perfectly said.
I love that. And I think it's got to be coming to a place where you recognize what I need from this other person that I keep going to that's not healthy for me. It's asking yourself, what do I really need? What do I need right now?
How does that happen though? Because it's very comfortable for that person, even no matter how traumatic it is. I have to imagine it's just like, I don't like to change. I like things. This is how things go. But most people don't like change. Mm-hmm. Or you're the opposite and you love change and chaos all the time. But I'm sure that's another topic for another day. But it's what has to happen to get these people to go, or anybody to go, wow, this is bad. I've got to do something.
So one thing that's really important is when the radar goes off and you're addicted in a relationship, check in with yourself. Where am I? What's going on with me? Do I feel secure with myself? And it's challenging those distorted beliefs, those core beliefs that we talked about last week. Sometimes they can be, I'm not enough, I'm not lovable. And it's about applying cognitive behavioral therapy and challenging those negative beliefs and changing them to something you believe in. Like, for instance, I'm unlovable, that belief. It's changing it to, today I'm trying, and that's enough. You've got to have truth to what you change your perspective to so it can help you persevere. It's got to be true to it. Instead of like, oh, I'm great, I'm wonderful. It's challenging that belief to something that really is reality and coming up with a new belief.
So what are some of the warning signs if you think, oh no, this is completely normal? I'm sure everybody goes through stuff like this. What are some warning signs or red flags that you might be in this relationship, or you might be dating somebody that is love addicted or love avoidance? What are some things that they could be looking out for in themselves or their partner?
The constant need for validation, constant text messaging, constantly needing to be together physically or connected in some way, needing that reassurance, not just sometimes, constantly, going to them for every problem, every solution, and expecting them to fix it. Another behavior that's really important to look out for is when you get in love addiction is when the relationship gets unhealthy and you know it's unhealthy and you don't leave and you stay in that relationship and you repeat that cycle where there's financial abuse, there can be physical abuse, there can be emotional abuse. It becomes unhealthy that moment that you have to ask yourself, is this healthy? That's when it becomes unhealthy.
Yeah, about the time you realize this isn't right. There's something going on here.
Absolutely.
So if you're dating somebody that has this, or you're thinking that this is something, there's a difference between, I would think, I want to be in this relationship. I need to be in this relationship. I'm nervous this person's going to leave me or abandon me. I've got to assume there's a next level to this, that kind of that craziness of that.
So when it becomes dysfunctional, where you're not able to work because you're constantly obsessing or you're constantly checking your cell phone, have they text me?
Okay.
Or to the point where you're not able to function healthy, where you're not able to do the daily to-dos, where it's causing chaos and you continue to engage in it.
And can somebody that has this love addiction, we talk about counseling, we do stuff, is it something to where, I'm in this dysfunctional relationship, I'm going to go get counseling. Can we fix this? Can you stay with that partner? Do you think that's something, or is it like, I'm going to need a clean break, I got to go work on myself and then decide? Because I almost think I would think that there's, like if you have a drug problem, enablers, that's what I'm looking for. Do you think there are people out there that are enablers of this love addiction or so if they get with somebody that has that, they're enabling them to feel that, or?
Absolutely. Look at what society teaches us. You watch a movie, they're in love right away. Mm-hmm. They're going to get married next week. They have the happily ever after. A week is not long enough to know somebody. A week is not long enough to know you're destined for forever. Right. You've got to go through experiences together. That trust builds over time. That's how you build true intimacy. And it's about finding out what is true intimacy. How do I know that it's true intimacy, and how do I know it's dysfunctional?
Because I would imagine there are people out there, narcissistic behaviors, that could exploit somebody that has those tendencies to be a love obsessive, and really exploit that and kind of look for those vulnerabilities in people as well.
Absolutely. And it's convenient.
Mm-hmm. It's easy, right? They're already addicted to me. And a narcissist loves that.
Absolutely. And not only a narcissist, but a love avoidant. Now let's flip the coin and talk about love avoidance.
Okay.
Love avoidance is when someone has a deep fear of intimacy and connection. They might push others away, keep relationships at a distance, or sabotage relationships when they get too close. On the surface, this might seem like the opposite of love addiction, but similar core beliefs drive it. Love avoidance often carry beliefs of inadequacy, but instead of seeking validation, they protect themselves by avoiding vulnerability. If someone believes that getting too close to others will lead to rejection, or that they're not worthy of love, they might build up these walls to keep others out. This can create a cycle of isolation and loneliness, even in a relationship.
So I'm trying to just wrap my head around this. So you could, the two kids living the same life, the same cycle of abuse, or the same, disconnect from a mother or father, can go in totally opposite directions.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Or turn out completely normal.
Yeah. And it can be, what can happen is, let's say, I'm going to give you a situation that we can use for an example. Let's say a kid comes from a divorce home. Mom is overly enmeshed with her son, overly involved in his business, to the point of she's always overly involved. And then you have dad, who's not a part of the picture. Dad's emotionally unavailable, shut down, not even involved. It could go either way.
Right.
The son could struggle with love avoidance because he had a mother that was enmeshed.
Smothering, yeah.
And enmeshed with him. Or he can swing to the other way and have that fear of rejection because he's afraid because his father wasn't there for him. It can go one way or another.
Do you ever see it going both, like cycles?
I do. So what I see often is I see the role switch, even in a relationship where two people, same couple, can be in a relationship and they can alternate between now you're the love addict, I'm the love avoidant. You know, the love addict, the fear of abandonment, they're like, come here, come here, come here at all costs, right? And love avoidance are like, go away, go away, go away. And they'll create a situation that sabotages that relationship where a participating event will occur. And they'll try to screw it up.
Right.
Because they're too scared to get close. Whereas a love addict is like, don't leave me. Don't leave me. I'll do anything. Don't leave me. It's like getting physically hit, knowing that that's wrong, but saying, please don't leave.
Right. And I bet you see the cycles too, where it's like, and all of us probably have those friends or where you're like, oh, look, they're dating. It's crazy. And then 2 weeks later, it's like, we're done. And they continue, like they have multiple partners because they don't want to get to that next level or take that to the next level.
Absolutely. So how do these patterns tie together, right? Both love addiction and love avoidance stem from the same place. One's belief formed early in life, often through experiences with caregivers or significant relationships. If someone grew up feeling rejected, neglected, or unworthy, they might develop a belief system that drives them toward unhealthy relationship patterns. For the love addict, the fear of abandonment and the need for validations becomes the driving force. For the love avoidant, the fear of vulnerability and rejections leads them to push others away.
So yeah, it's just, but there's hope, right?
Absolutely, there's hope. There's always hope. And the first step is just acknowledging, checking in with yourself. Where am I at? What do I need? Understanding these core beliefs is the first step towards healing. When we recognize the patterns we fall into and the beliefs that drive them, we can start challenging and changing these beliefs. Therapy, self-reflection, and healthy relationships practices can be the tools to help break the cycle of love addiction and love avoidance. So what can we do? If you identify with either of these patterns, it's important to start by acknowledging your core beliefs. Ask yourself, what do I believe about myself and a relationship? What fears are driving my behavior? Once you've identified these beliefs, you can begin to challenge them. Remember, core beliefs are not facts. They're not true.
Right.
They're just thoughts that have become intermingled with our effort. They can seem to change. And that's where the real work begins. Whether you're dealing with love addiction, love avoidance, or a combination of both, healing starts with understanding yourselves and your beliefs. It's about learning to find your worth and validation within yourself rather than seeking it from others or avoiding it altogether.
So I think with anything, I mean, it's one, like you said, identify there's a problem. How are we going to handle this? And I think just knowing there's a problem, because you can go to therapy all you want. If you don't believe there's a problem and you don't, accept and be ready to change or to work on yourself, I don't know how successful that's going to be.
It's not. It's got to come at a place of acceptance. And acceptance is realizing that this place, this situation is exactly as it is and acknowledging the reality of it.
Right.
And it's coming to terms with that acceptance of where you're really at, whether that's good or rather that's bad, because you can't change until you own it, until you own where you're at and are truthful. You know the quote, "To thine own self be true." I think it's relevant here.
Right. And it's just, I think a lot of it is, oh, this is how my mom and dad were, so this is normal. But if you have that warning sign in your head, like, hey, this is something, that's probably a great place to start. And of course, if we're, if we're looking and need help, you guys are always available. I think, do you see this in young kids too, like it acting out before relationships?
Absolutely. I see it as young as my youngest patient, 9 years old.
Oh my gosh. I'm assuming unlovable. They think they're unlovable.
Absolutely. And will push people away that are even healthy. Because that underlying fear of, I'm not enough.
Crazy. So parents, if your children are going through this and you just cannot figure out why, and it could just be something made up in their head that they think this, with the core belief or something that happened and it just triggered something, they can give you guys a call. They can reach out to you guys.
Absolutely. We're always here to help.
All right. We've got the numbers below, the website. Thank you so much. This give us a lot to think about. It's, we never know what other people are going through.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, we got to pay attention to that and just, have patience with people.
Absolutely. Progress, not perfection.
I like that. Progress, not perfection. I practice that at my other job.
Nice.
Well, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in to Power of the Mind. As always, Madi, thank you so much for your insight. And I can't wait to dive in a little bit deeper with this next time.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.